What's orange and sounds like a parrot?
A carrot.
Yup. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Brand Coverage. I'm Brandon Carney alongside Pat Gustafson, continuing with our divisional fantasy football previews. Today we've got the AFC North for you fine ladies and gentlemen, mostly gentlemen. I think our breakdown of demographic is about 95 to 98.8% male.
Hello, Eliza and Lily.
There are some ladies out there, and we appreciate every single one of you because God, do we need you for just diversity. We are very appreciative of you out there. It is the July 22nd edition of Brand Coverage today. Not a whole lot of news once again, but I do expect that to change here in the next couple of weeks because, as we touched on last week, today is the first day that any veterans are reporting to training camp. We've got the Cardinals
Thank you for your service.
We got the Cardinals and Panthers.
Does that mean Pat
veterans
Tillman has reported?
No, I don't believe so. I don't believe he is able. Yeah, we finally got our first vets reporting to camp, which means, the official start to camp news, camp buzz, camp hype, all of that fun stuff about to be popping off here. Only for the Panthers and Cardinals for the time being, which means, the Bryce Young puff pieces are about to hit. Oh, they're going to hit. So I can't wait for that, our short king himself. Speaking of the Panthers, Pat, that is one of our only pieces of actual news today. So let's get into that, and let's just start things hot and get right into our divisional preview after that. But for now...
Good evening. I'm Ron Burgundy, and this is what's happening in your world tonight.
So actual serious news here. The Panthers standout right tackle, Taylor Moton, diagnosed with blood clots in his lung, will miss the start of the 2026 season. He was placed on blood thinners. He's responding well to treatment and will be assessed daily by the Panthers medical staff. Now, this is also with Carolina being without left tackle Ike Ekwonu after a ruptured patellar tendon in January. So the Panthers O-line struggling a little bit.
I was going to say that Monroe Freeling pick makes a bit more sense now when we thought they might go wide receiver in that move. Freeling makes a lot more sense now.
It absolutely does. So, something to keep an eye on just for the overall outlook of this Panthers offense. As we all know, everything starts up front. Things will depend on how well Monroe Freeling adjusts to the NFL game. Obviously, he reported to Panthers camp a little bit before today because he is a rook and the vets are coming in today. But we will keep tabs on all of that for you guys. The Panthers also did tackle Rasheed Walker from the Packers this offseason on a one-year deal. So, their O-line's not decrepit, at least not yet, but they are, losing more pieces than they would have liked to have lost up to this point. So we will keep an eye on that for you guys. Another piece of football news here. We've got Cam Scadaboo, Pat, made some headlines from Fanatics Fest because for the second time this offseason, he was filmed doing a backflip. And this time he kind of fell over at the end, which stressed a lot of people out. So
bro, thankfully, the guy is not problematic. Only to himself.
Yep.
He needs to be sat down and talked to, but more so from the perspective of, hey, don't hurt yourself because we need you. But, there are far worse things, as we've seen from many other players this offseason, than you can be doing than doing a backflip and only endangering yourself. So, yeah. Cam, please stop. Please.
Yeah, look, he's a lunatic, but I think he's a lunatic in a good way, because I did see a couple of people on Twitter, they made a good point, and it wasn't something I had really thought about up to that point, but they were like, listen, if nothing else, this shows that the mental hurdle of coming back from an injury isn't going to be a factor for him.
Bro doesn't have a mental anything.
Correct, but that's a good sign.
Good or bad.
As we've seen with guys returning from injury, a lot of that return and getting back to form is trusting your body, not being afraid of re-injuring yourself, all these things that can contribute beyond just the actual physical limitation or physical, change of the surgery that you got. It is very much a mental battle as much as anything else. And the fact that he's just ripping backflips in the offseason, clearly fearless. And if you were to say any player in the NFL was fearless, I think Cam Scadaboo was probably at the top of your list. But to have this, pretty clear evidence right in front of us that he's not going to be tentative going out there when he's back out on the field.
No,
so he's going to.
We shouldn't expect him to have a like a reacclimation period.
Yeah, no,
I think Bro's going to be going balls to the wall as soon as possible.
He's going to be himself, and I think that's obviously a good sign. Scadaboo's a guy that for fantasy I've definitely come around on over the last couple of weeks because. And we'll talk about another guy who suffered a fibula fracture, later in this show, another running back who suffered one. But I had kind of placed both Scadaboo and, spoiler alert, Quinshon Judkins in the same bucket as Tony Pollard.
Spoilers!
In the same bucket as Tony Pollard from a couple years ago, where if you recall, he openly talked about it took him a while to feel like himself that season because of just the nature of the surgery and the injury that he had, which again was the same as what Scadaboo and Judkins had, at least for part of the injury suffered. So I had kind of grouped them all together, and then I realized maybe I shouldn't do that because Scadaboo especially has had a lot more time to recover than Tony Pollard did. Tony Pollard injured himself in January. It was January 22nd of whatever year it was, and then, came back to start that season and was a little bit slow. Scadaboo hurt himself in October.
Yeah.
So that's a lot more time to get back. In fact, that is almost the exact amount of time if you take the difference between him and Pollard and when Pollard said that he finally felt like himself. That's pretty much put Scadaboo in the feeling like himself timeline right at the start of the season if you were to have, the exact same recoveries. Not that they necessarily will, but I'm definitely more in on Scadaboo than I thought I would be. I still don't, as I've talked about on this pod many times, I still am not in love with the Giants' outlook as a whole, but in terms of trying to extract fantasy value from it and looking at running backs outside of the top 2 rounds that you can really get some nice production from, I think Scadaboo is arguably at or near the top of that list. I mean, he's a guy, Pat, if he didn't get hurt last year, we're probably talking about him as a guy at the 1-2 turn with how well he was performing in the games he did play. I mean, the guy was up over 30 fantasy points at least once, if not a couple of times.
We're looking at an instance where they didn't really do much to challenge him in a sense. So, like, the guys, well, I guess Matt Nagy, Brian Dable, Matt Nagy is an interesting move, but at least you got to think that they're prioritizing him even with the new regime. So yeah, so long as he stays on the field, he'll be fine. Also seeing some things in the chats that are related. I have not been laid off from ESPN. They are not coming after the part-time stats analysts that give their entire salary back to the cafeteria.
Yeah, the layoffs are for contracts that are too big to be
that are
it.
in the 7 figures of the people that they're laying off. But
I was at ESPN for a couple of rounds of layoffs, and I was also a not nearly enough of a priority for them to worry about me.
It seems they're going for on-air talent. Obviously, I won't comment too much, except that, like,
R.I.P. Stefania Bell.
Oh, don't get that's like my 9.
One of our
her and Linda
favorites.
Cohn going back to back is like my 9/11.
Well, listen,
and since neither of them are colleagues now, I can say that.
Listen, your alarming sexual attraction towards Stefania Bell is not what I was getting at. But as a fantasy football asset and analyst and personality,
real,
just one of the best, man.
I mean,
one of definitely the first person in my fantasy football upbringing to really bring the injury analysis to the forefront.
She had a unique spin as opposed to like Damian Woody, who basically just says the same thing as the person before him.
Right.
Stefania actually was very insightful. It's really unfortunate for her in the first place.
She'll land on her feet, assuming she doesn't just want to retire. But
Tom Pellisario is another one, a really good reporter. He won't be out of work for terribly long. Everyone's kind of mad about Carl Ravage. Was never a fan.
I liked Carl,
but
he's
been there for 33 years, and it's unfortunate.
I can't speak fully on him, but I did work directly with Carl for a little bit on the Little League World Series, and just when you're a production assistant at ESPN, you're very much low on the totem pole and don't get a whole lot of recognition. Carl was one of the few guys who went out of his way to thank people in that role.
That's nice of him.
And I always appreciate it.
Because I have heard many stories about all other people that were laid off.
Yeah.
Not so
really
kind of a light
interesting.
there. But even the NFL coverage, Ryan Clark, who ever since he hit Peter Schrager with a "you never played" argument, was kind of toast.
You can't do that, man.
And Cam Newton, I forgot he was there.
Well, Cam Newton, because Cam Newton was, I mean, he was on First Take a lot, but he was, I think,
he had the beef with Drake May for no reason.
He was largely part of like the NFL Network merger, was he not?
No,
he was.
He was there.
He was an ESPN.
Yeah, he's been there for a little while.
Okay,
yeah.
I mean, I know he's been on First Take. I don't really watch a lot of First Take, so I didn't know what else. What else?
Got a
he
good
appeared
Diana
on.
Rossini comment there.
Oh, dear.
But
Who landed?
But it was great. The one thing that just blows my mind is everyone's like, "Oh, McAfee, Stephen A, and Mina Kimes are ruining ESPN." Just say you don't like women,
bro.
Pal.
Mina
Kimes is like the furthest. Mina Kimes is one of the more rational people at ESPN. She's not there to spew hot takes. People just don't like that there's a woman that knows as much, if not more, about football than them.
Yeah, I don't think there's just no way for a lot of people to ever accept a not just a woman, but a minority woman talking about the sport that, you know, they love and don't think she has any place talking about, which is
there are so many,
psychotic.
There are so many men that didn't play that are in the same boat that people respect. But yeah, I don't.
And also grouping her in with these layoffs with McAfee and Stephen A, who are making about
McAfee's going to make $60 million
gajillion times more than Mina's making. Mina is not a concern, or should not be brought up in the same breath as those guys who are occupying far too much of the ESPN non-existent salary cap for their on-air talent.
But yes, as someone pointed out in the chat, I missed it. They lay off people that get paid. So I was not in danger.
True, very true.
But yeah, just unfortunate. I thought, well, I mean, it is going to be good that they've got and Charles Davis as well, who was really good on the NFL draft as well. He was part of the NFL Network merger. And now basketball. LeBron, first of all, this fucking guy reminds me why I used to hate him. Because he just wants to drag this
Rich
out.
Paul came out and said this isn't about attention. He doesn't want attention, Pat.
LeBron wants. There's nobody that wants more attention than LeBron James.
I disagree. Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, you're right.
But yeah,
this was remember when Tom Brady announced he was coming back on the night of the during the women's selection show for the tournament. I remember being at ESPN and people were just like, "This guy's a dick."
That's brutal.
But LeBron, it seems everything is pointing in the direction of a return to Miami.
Mm-hmm. Taking his talents back to South Beach.
He will also be joining to bump shoulders with Bam and Giannis in the paint there.
Big body.
A few things. Shams has said that he expects him to go to the Eastern Conference, which would imply Cleveland, Philadelphia, and Miami. And then Kendrick Perkins reported that Miami is on the top of his list. And while that sentence is crazy, I believe him. Because you do have to go through ESPN's vetting to even tweet or say something like that on air. It has to be vetted by the higher ups. And then the Heat accidentally posted an introductory press conference link for him.
Very funny.
That is genuinely hilarious. But I think he'll go there, and obviously he'll make them better because he's still LeBron James, even at 40. What he brings to the team, just from the veteran standpoint, from being the best player of the modern era, kind of deal.
Yeah.
I still don't like that team that much. I still don't love that team in the sense they're still not, LeBron can shoot, of course, but it's not his thing. LeBron's not a shooter. He's a creator. He's a facilitator. Of course, he can shoot the three a bit, but you're still going to be relying heavily on guys like Tim Hardaway Jr. to just continue to shoot the lights out.
Denver Nuggets great, Tim Hardaway Jr.
If they're going to be relying on guys like him to just shoot the fucking lights out and hope Bam has one of the best three-point shooting seasons of his career. I mean, the team will be good. They'll make the playoffs, but I don't...
ESPN's depth chart for the Miami Heat has not yet updated because it still had Tyler Hero on it.
This is an interesting message held for review. Called him Diddy James and called him a Democrat, so I'm going to show it.
Okay, terrific. Let's see. Heat depth chart here.
But he also called Aaron Rodgers a weird right-wing schizo. Okay.
I mean,
bro's kind of spitting.
He's
Not-
speaking factuals. Let's see, Heat depth chart. So I mean, I guess LeBron will be somebody will be the pseudo point guard because I imagine Davion Mitchell's the one getting bumped from the starting lineup here. So you'll have Bron, Tim Hardaway, Andrew Wiggins, Giannis, and Bam.
See, I would think Hardaway would come off the bench because they need a facilitator and perimeter.
Yeah, but
they need a facilitator and a perimeter defender like Davion Mitchell on the floor with the main unit.
Where's the shooting coming from if your starting lineup is Bron, Davion, Wiggins, Giannis, and Bam? I mean, like, they can all kind of shoot, but like
except Giannis. Giannis.
Yeah, but you don't have anybody who's like a shooter.
Also, remember when they were going to talk about the NFC North? My brother in Christ, we are 17 minutes into a 90-minute show. We are going to talk about the NFC North. Actually, up next, but let's do something else now. Let's do something else now.
We're going to talk
Keep
about
David waiting.
We're going to talk about baseball and hockey. And
soccer. World Cup was fun.
The World Cup. Let's do a comprehensive breakdown of every game of the World Cup. Every single bit of it. No, I'm with Pat. We were just about to get to the AFC North preview, and now you've made me not want to. So we're going to sit here in silence for the next 10 seconds before we get into it. Okay, just know that you did that. Just know that was your fault. All right.
Talk about Esmeralyn Valdez for 30 minutes. Tino's ball.
I could talk about Esmeralyn Valdez.
All right, Bran, hit the button.
Oh, I'm going to hit the fucking division preview. Yeah. Division preview. Division preview. All right. Well, today we've got the AFC North, the hard-hitting New Britain-ass division of the AFC North.
Okay.
All right, look, it's just historically, this is the division that's got kind of the most beef within it. Not that that has anything to do with its fantasy viability or non-viability.
Does that just have everything to do with Mike McCarthy?
No, it has more to do with like Vontae's Perfect and Ray Lewis.
Oh dear, a lot of
and
whoa,
not the criminal aspect.
Deshaun Watson.
Him, the criminal aspect for sure. But yeah, we've got a lot of good teams in here. And I mean, good is relative, I guess. We've got like two really good teams, generally speaking. One team that inexplicably won the division last year, despite not being one of those teams, and then one team that is a hopeless pile of sad ass cheeks.
Please don't talk about the Steelers like that.
No. So let's kick things off here with the Baltimore Ravens, Pat. So the Ravens finally, whether it was overdue or not, depends on the eye of the beholder. But they got rid of John Harbaugh.
I think it was time.
I was surprised they did it. I think the timing of it more surprised me than anything because they kind of hit us with the hezzy on the firing of John Harbaugh. It wasn't like right when everybody else got fired. They got rid of him a little bit later. But they ended up bringing in Jesse Minter off of the Jim Harbaugh coaching tree, worked with him at Michigan, then at the Chargers as their defensive coordinator. He now comes in as the head coach, which I feel like, we always talk about getting an offensive mind or like the hot new offensive mind as a head coach is like kind of the way the NFL is going. That tends to be the more advisable way to do things. But to me, I feel like the Ravens are meant to have like a defensive guy as their head coach. That's just their kind of identity. And that's because that's not what John Harbaugh was.
John Harbaugh was neither.
John Harbaugh was neither. I know he was a special
teams
but
coach.
It just feels like if you have to pick one or the other for the Baltimore Ravens, it feels like it should be a defensive guy, which is also why a lot of Ravens fans were so mad they let Mike McDonald walk out of the building because they were like, look, could we not have gotten rid of Harbaugh a couple of years ago?
But
and
what's he
been
up to anyway?
Fucking unsuccessful ass, just kind of doing nothing.
But I agree in the sense of the culture. I think Jesse Minter is going to fall right into this sort of D'Amico Ryans fold as being a defensive guy, but being young, being charismatic, and just instilling that culture of, I don't even know, ground and pound, I guess, but
just
hard-nosed football.
Yeah.
But again, for fantasy purposes, the question always becomes, who is the offensive coordinator? Who's calling plays? Mm-hmm. And Jesse Minter went out and got Declan Doyle, the QB coach, I believe, or the run game coordinator, whatever, from the Bears. He is behind Ben Johnson. I think it's about as good as it gets in that case if you're kind of taking a swing on a first-time coordinator.
Well, he was the OC for the Bears last year, just by name. But it's the Bears, so
you're right.
Didn't
you're
really
right.
matter.
He didn't call plays.
Yeah.
But now he'll get the chance to call plays.
Correct.
We've seen Ben Johnson be successful in Detroit, and we've seen that offense fall off a bit since he left and then go to Chicago, and Chicago looked great. So Declan Doyle under him, I think this is a great choice to bring in, and I think interestingly enough is they did absolutely nothing to change their offensive personnel around Lamar Jackson.
Pretty common theme, honestly, among this division. We are largely.
I'm trying to look. Besides,
there are things that changed, but
literally the
crazy.
Ravens and Bengals. Every player we have written down was on the team last year.
Yeah, and the Browns. Their big difference was
draft
rookies, and then the Steelers were the ones that materially
the Steelers fucked around,
changed some things. But even they arguably didn't bring in a new top guy at any of their positions. I mean, we'll talk about whether we think those guys can take that role, but debatably, it's still debatable. It's not like they brought in a guy who's clearly going to take over everything about their offense. But yeah, with the Baltimore Ravens, I shouldn't say no major differences, because getting rid of John Harbaugh and getting rid of some of the things they did have on the team does make a difference. So it was more subtraction than addition as far as the changes go. Got rid of Pat Ricard. Pat Ricard's going on to the
Giants,
New York Giants, as well as Isaiah Likely. So that's going to change the formula a little bit.
And Todd Monken, because Todd Monken is one of the. We'll talk about him when we get to the Browns, but one of the more notorious, run the ball, slower pace kinds of offenses.
Yep.
We could bring in a guy, Declan Doyle, under Ben Johnson, who's one of the more creative play callers and offensive minds in the league.
Yeah.
So you're right, but I find it interesting that there is a big shift, but we're going to do it with the same personnel, which just goes to show that they believe that this is the personnel that they can get it done with. And I think there's a big reflection on one guy in particular, Derrick Henry.
Okay.
They did not bring in a soul.
Yeah.
Justice Hill is still the backup. And you lose Keaton Mitchell, who has always been an intriguing piece. They bring in no one in the draft, no one that's going to challenge him in, from free agency.
Yeah, Derrick Henry was a guy, and we'll circle back to Lamar here in a second, but we might as well kick things off with him. Derrick Henry, for those of you focused, I should say dedicated listeners, know that in our league of record, our home league, that was my first round pick last year, which I had to adjust to when I had planned to take Ashton Genty. Honestly, thank God last year that Ashton Genty got sniped from me, because that would not have worked out. I'm back in this year though. But Derrick Henry, he was a guy that for me in our draft that it was the process I think was right. The results just weren't there because of this offense cratering so badly to a point that we just couldn't have expected, because a lot of it was surrounding Lamar Jackson being hurt and just various things with that offense. They suffered a lot of injuries last year, but yeah, I'm right with you, Pat. Derrick Henry's a guy because it was part of the reason I drafted him last year, I have very much let go of any age-related concerns with Derrick Henry, because he's quite literally and quite simply built different. I mean, he's 32 years old heading into this season, but it just doesn't matter. It seems like he's going to be one of those guys that is productive and can be productive through age 34, 35. Now, we started to see...
Actually, I got my toes in the shots.
We started to see, I won't say signs of a fall off last year, but the one thing that did plague him a little bit last year was the fumbles. And I remember tweeting out during the season, I was like, it's funny how Father Time comes for guys in different ways, because even when it doesn't seem to be coming for you physically, it might come for you a little bit mentally, in terms of just the sharpness of the focus, the ability to do everything at once that is required of you as an NFL football player. And that is, keeping your body right, maintaining the same vision, the same physicality, but also being able to do those fundamentals. So I think that's something to watch for. It's not something that's going to materially affect his fantasy output. And Derrick Henry's a guy that I'm absolutely back in on for 2026.
There's a thing. It's maybe Derrick Henry will fall off again, but it's how bad can that fall off be?
Yeah, you would think it'll be gradual.
Say it's great. I don't think he's going to fall off the face of the earth, mainly because what is Justice Hill going to surpass him in the depth chart? No. Like, Henry is still going to have a lot of opportunity in what still should be a good offense, in a different offense again, but my big concern still is the offensive line.
Yeah.
But again, it's still Derrick Henry.
Mm-hmm.
It's still Derrick Henry. So, like, I'm not, he's RB11. Like, I'm not, like, sitting here foaming at the mouth, but it's like, if Derrick Henry falls to you in that kind of area around the, it'll be, I'd imagine it'll be more so the mid-second round where you're getting him. That's a fine pick.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of, again, the exact same logic I had with him last year, even though it is a different coaching staff and different everything, that like your worst case, and it's funny, I remember talking about worst case scenario with Derrick Henry. I guess I was technically wrong, because worst case scenario is fucking Lamar Jackson fucks off for the entire year and Derrick Henry just can't get off the ground for half the year.
Snoop! Joey F. How do you pronounce that?
What are you looking at?
UConn.
Oh,
Joey
Joe
Fagnano,
Fagnano, our boy. We're looking at the Ravens.
Joey Fians.
We're looking at the Ravens depth chart with UConn quarterback Joe Fagnano on it.
And Diego Pavia.
But yeah,
I think
I think the point stands with Derrick Henry, where it's like the worst case scenario, if you draft him, is like, yeah, the yardage might take a dip, which it did last year. I mean, he played 17 games. He had about a little over 300 yards fewer than he did the year prior, but the touchdowns were going to be there, and the touchdowns were there. 16 rushing touchdowns for Derrick Henry, because they simply don't have anybody else that they're going to give that work to.
Maybe Lamar, but even Lamar's the goal line has drastically decreased over the years.
Lamar has not been a guy that they are willing to really draw up runs for, inside the 5. Now, could that change with a different OC? Sure, but Derrick Henry's a guy, I mean, his stats are so stupid. Double-digit touchdowns every season since 2018. At least 12 in every year except one since 2018 , which is, and that year he only played 8 games.
I remember I had him, and that was the year he broke his toe.
Yeah, it just outrageous touchdown totals from Derrick Henry. So I know we're in the modern fantasy world where we want, our running backs to be able to do everything and get the receiving work, and that's absolutely valid, and that's why Derrick Henry's not, viewed as a top 5 or top 6 or top 7 guy, because there are so many backs, or the elite backs that can do that kind of stuff. Your Jahmyr Gibbs, your Bijan Robinsons, your Ashton Genties, your Christian McCaffreys, those guys are going to be involved in the receiving game, but Derrick Henry is just such a bankable floor of those touchdowns and, assuming health, like still good yard. Like, we're talking about a fall off in yardage, Pat. He had almost 1,600 yards on the ground. Like, he doesn't
catch the ball, but that's Derrick Henry.
He's just a freak. And I think with where he's going in drafts this year, I mean, RB11, 23rd overall, I imagine in a lot of home leagues he'll go a little bit higher because of name recognition. But like, dude, as a second round pick, like, wherever I am in the second round, that sounds wonderful in terms of
Bran,
just how.
Where are you in the second round?
I'm after. He's not falling to either of us,
I know.
pal. Trust me.
Especially in our league.
Trust me.
Oh, I know.
But I would obviously be all over that if the opportunity presented itself.
And now the question comes back to his running mate, Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
QB2 behind only Josh Allen, who, I believe is pretty much nearly unanimously regarded as the number 1 quarterback here. And then you get to Lamar. Again, it's funny, you look on Fantasy Pros, they have the bust meter. Mm-hmm. He's got a pretty high bust meter. Hey, yo. But, and we saw it last year.
I'd be busting my meat
where he
insider.
Was not very good. But again, he was not, I think this was another case of a guy coming off injury because the team needed him, and he was just not right.
Yeah, and I mean,
he was just not right.
It's clear looking at the game logs too, because you start the year against the Bills, the Browns, and the Lions, 29.4 fantasy points, 26.3 fantasy points, 27 fantasy points, and then gets hurt in that game against the Chiefs on the road, misses a bunch of games, comes back, faces the Dolphins, so still able to put up good points because it's the fucking Dolphins. 25.6 in that game, and then after that, fucking yikes. If you were started, this is the kind of...
I had a league where I wasn't starting him.
Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of stretch that loses you not just a game, but a season.
Especially with how high you took him.
Yeah, like 16.6 at the Vikings on the road. Okay, you can forgive that a little bit. Then 6.7, 7.2, 7.5. Brother. And not just 7.2 and 7.5. 7.2 and 7.5, both games at home against the Jets and against the Bengals.
And you're looking at these performances here where he's not even a QB2.
Yeah.
Like, even if you're playing in a super flex league or
Yeah.
a 2 QB league,
You were better off starting Raiders Geno Smith.
That's what I
right?
mean. You were still not better off starting him. So the worry could be like, oh, maybe he's going downhill. I don't buy that. I buy that he was clearly not right. He's coming off an injury. Maybe a new spark in him with this new head coach, because him and John Harbaugh had a lot of tension.
It was never kumbaya between those two.
No,
like
it
there
was
were,
never like,
at least reportedly, like you get some of the mic'd up moments on the sideline where they seem like they're on the same page. There was never any visible tension between those two. But every year you'd get these reports that are like, they might not be seeing
it was
eye to
definitely
eye.
more underlying for sure.
And there was the time where there was real question over whether Lamar was going to be a Baltimore Raven a couple years back, and then it was like, okay, go ahead and test the trade market, and for whatever reason, no team wanted him for some fucking reason.
It was blatant collusion.
But yeah, look, I think this is all going to be good things for Lamar.
By the way, my shirt says I suck at fantasy football.
Getting a bit of a fresh start, perfect to wear on our podcast.
I wore it today because I did just leave this league where I got the shirt yesterday, so I wanted to honor them today by wearing the shirt. But here's the thing. We talked about all these positive things about Lamar. I am not going anywhere near him at the 34th overall pick.
No, and I think that's the thing. So you can look at it both ways, right? I want to tie off this part with Lamar of the positive outlook with the schedule that they have to open the season, because good Lord, is it juicy in terms of the defenses they're facing. Look, the Colts are not a total slouch defensively. They open against Indy, but that's not something that totally scares you. After that, Saints, Cowboys, Titans, Falcons, Browns, no Myles Garrett anymore, Bengals. And then you get into like harder, but still not like, oh fuck, defenses. Bills, Jags, Chargers, Carolina, and then you get at Houston. And then like this Ravens schedule there's a lot of opportunity for points here. And that, to me, that's the only thing that would tempt me to draft a guy like Lamar Jackson. You and I have talked ad nauseum, and we'll even get into a segment here for the late round quarterbacks draft a little bit later with which late round quarterbacks we like. But you and I have talked a lot about we want to wait on quarterback. If the draft board fell a certain way, this would be the thing that would compel me to potentially draft Lamar Jackson, just knowing not just all the other good things about possibly bouncing back, but the schedule is there's a lot of meat on that bone. A lot of meat on that bone. So I do think it is interesting. But otherwise, generally speaking, I'm with you. I won't be spending too early of a pick on a quarterback.
Well, because I feel like in that case, Josh Allen is far more of a sure thing. Like, if I am going to take a quarterback that early, Lamar's volatility does scare me a little bit.
Josh is going earlier, though, too. I mean,
Josh is the second turn.
Josh is probably going like he's going about a full round earlier than Lamar, most places you look. So if you can get Lamar, Lamar, let's not forget, 2-time NFL MVP, 29 years old, fantasy cheat code, multiple different years. And I think that's very much back on the table for him to do again. Last year was a weird year. There were a lot of high profile quarterbacks, especially.
Remember the end of year quarterback rankings were literally fucking hilarious.
I mean, between Lamar, Burrow, Jaden Daniels, these are
Hurts
guys
kind of had a down year. Well, I guess more so real life than fantasy.
Yeah. These are guys that are stalwarts of the quarterback position. And I just think we need to recalibrate and be like, look, these guys they're back. Let's understand and remember what they can actually do.
And so now I suppose it will be every year it's who are they going to get for Lamar to throw the ball to? Well, it turns out for the rest of eternity, it's going to be Zay Flowers,
and
Rashad Bateman, and his good friend Mark Andrews.
Yep.
Who, the more I've been thinking about Mark Andrews, the more I like him.
Yeah.
Going into this, because again, we saw obviously he had that terrible drop in the playoffs 2 years ago, and his numbers have declined a bit. Lamar Jackson still loves the guy. And to lose Isaiah Likely, for Isaiah Likely to leave the building, and for them to bring in Durham Smythe as the other option, there's no comparison here. Where you look at someone like Mark Andrews going at tight end 15, I may not take him as the only one who, my only tight end, but I think I like Mark Andrews here. Where he's going. If I'm going to wait on tight end and kind of take two guys and take a shot, Andrews is kind of going to be more my floor play in that situation.
No, I'm with you. I think Andrews is a guy that we kind of had all chalked up to look, he's going to lose his starting job at some point. to Isaiah Likely. He's going to fade away. We've seen him slow down.
Hey, guess what?
We've seen him slow down over the years here. How old are we looking at with Mark Andrews? I know he's like
Not
early
that old.
30s. He's
30,
only 30.
that's what I mean. He's not as old as
He's
you think.
only 30. So
he has been banged up, but I'll be honest, like if we're talking like, obviously it's not the best stack in the league, but if we're talking the best connection from a quarterback to a pass catcher, I'd put Lamar and Mark Andrews up there amongst anyone.
Yeah.
Like those two, Lamar is always looking for him in the red zone. And, you know, you look at someone like Zay Flowers, who is not your conventional red zone target. And Rashad Bateman, just stop. Can we stop with Rashad Bateman, please?
Rashad Bateman is how I feel about so many players, where it's like, if it's been this many years and you just have not shown me consistency, I'm over it.
He is nothing but a complimentary piece for real life football. He's a fine guy to have there, but for fantasy purposes, we're not doing it. So
for fantasy purposes, he's gonna have those games. You just don't know when they're gonna be.
We're basically looking at Mark Andrews and Zay Flowers. We talk about the top two targets on the team. I think Mark Andrews is a surefire to be the number two target on this team.
Yeah. So Mark Andrews, I'm looking at I guess Vegas, but whatever. It's FanDuel touchdown totals here. And my eyes could be deceiving me, but I don't believe they are. No, they're not. Mark Andrews is tied for the highest among tight ends in terms of touchdowns projected this year. 6.5, which is in line with where is it? Same number as Brock Bowers. What's Trey McBride at? Trey McBride
0.
Trey McBride's at 6.5 as well.
Trey McBride is going to have a fumble recovery in the end zone touchdown and a kick return touchdown.
So those
are going to be his 2 touchdowns.
That's where those are the top tight ends in terms of touchdowns projected. Colston Loveland, I believe, is at 5.5. Yep, 5.5. Tucker Kraft is at 5.5. Kelsey's at 4.5. Warren 5.5. So this is a guy that like is up there.
At the end of the day, touchdowns are still so important for tight ends.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's so rare. I mean, you've got your Brock Bowers. I think a guy like Tyler Warren can join him and Trey Tucker, Jesus Christ. Trey McBride, excuse me, as tight ends who kind of gobble up targets. But besides that, touchdowns are huge. And that's Mark Andrews' entire thing here. Like, I'm looking at him being ranked tight end 15 here on the Fantasy Pros consensus. I would put him closer to tight end 11 here on my personal. Like, I'd rather have him over his old running mate, Isaiah Likely. I'd rather have him over Jake Ferguson. I'd rather have him over Dallas Goedert. Like, I think he is a legitimate low-end tight end 1 here.
Well, and what I'm curious about is the snap counts, because Fantasy Pro shows their snap totals. And
he's also been very dinged up, too, is the other thing that he is.
Well, Andrews, I mean, he played every game last year. But I'm just curious why there's so many of these games like sub 70% snap total. At the end of the year, you're looking at sub 50% for a lot of these games. So let me look real quick at who was playing. Like, was Isaiah Likely really playing that much?
Patrick Ricard.
Let's see, tight end. So we've got
Charlie Kolar.
Yeah, Charlie Kolar. He's out of the building as well. Likely was playing a lot. Patrick Ricard, by virtue of just being on the field, was
he lined up at tight end a fair deal.
Yeah, I mean, so Andrews, let's see. He was playing about 80% of snaps, barring a couple of exceptions, up until week 6, and then that changed, and that was pretty much in line with Patrick Ricard coming back, who is not there. Now, are they trotting out a fullback still, or have they completely abandoned
They've abandoned it. I know they've got Lucas Scott, but
who the fuck is that guy?
Is he a rookie? Yes.
He's from Army.
He's a rookie from Army.
Well, wait, was this, because it says first season, was that,
no,
has this been updated?
He was there last year. He was there last year.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. Like, there's a pretty clear opportunity for Andrews to play a lot more snaps.
This would have been a fun team for them to bring in a fun little tight end, like, or even like, in the draft,
tight little end,
or Chigakonkwo kind of guy, someone who is like an appealing piece, and they didn't. Yeah. They just didn't do that. And you lose your other pass-catching tight end Likely, and you lose your blocking tight end in Charlie Kolar. So there is plenty of opportunity here.
You know what this feels like? This feels like last year, Cortland Sutton to me. Like tight end version of Cortland Sutton, where It's not pretty, and it's probably not going to win you any leagues. But
Eat your vegetables.
It's just going to be a nice, solid rock piece for you.
Except don't eat Taylor Farms lettuce.
No, do it. You gotta make big poopies. Yeah, Mark Andrews is a guy like it's not gonna feel great when you do it, but it's gonna feel pretty good when he's getting you like 10 half PPR points every single week, which I think he's more than capable of doing. Not a guy that I thought I'd be in on, but that's just where the chips.
You know, it's funny, and that kind of poses the same question. How do we feel about Zay Flowers? Because the conversation is similar in the sense that there is a lot to go around here. But the thing, Zay Flowers is a very good wide receiver in real life.
Mm-hmm.
He can do a lot of different things for your offense. He's a fun guy to have. But for fantasy, the targets just aren't there consistently.
They're all over the place.
You look at,
he's up and down.
That's what I mean. You look
year.
at, mostly 5 to 6 targets, which isn't terrible, but for a guy going as the wide receiver 16, 31st overall, that isn't enough for me. That isn't enough for me. I don't hate Zay Flowers in the sense where it's like, maybe if he fell a bit on ADP, he'd be a guy, okay, I'll take him because he is going to have those games where he's super involved and can break and can turn a huge play as well as any wide receiver in the league. But even in an offense where there should be so much to go around, we just haven't seen it. Maybe Declan Doyle can
Changes
bring him out. He
things,
could be the Amon-Ra. He could be the Bears didn't have kind of that guy last year, but like he can be sort of the focal point of this offense. And maybe that can be the case, but I think I'd rather miss out at the ADP.
I don't see Zay Flowers having like a top 5 receiver season that I'm like, oh man, I really wish I had picked him. And like Fantasy Pros consensus ranks has Flowers at 31st overall, man. Like that's just wide receiver 16. And I understand he finished wide receiver.
I'd rather take Lamar in that spot.
Yeah. Like I understand he finished wide receiver 7 last year, just largely war of attrition and just the big games kind of anchoring him there. But like the players that are going near him, man, I'm not even thinking about Zay Flowers. Like, and this will depend on what platform you're looking at, because like I was looking at the other day, ESPN has Jeremiah Love, who's listed right behind Flowers on Fantasy Pros. Jeremiah Love is like their 11th overall player. I'm like, guys, fucking relax. But just generally speaking, the players behind...
Must have laid off those guys.
I hope so. No, because I think it was Mike Clay. The guys listed behind Zay on consensus rankings like Jeremiah Love, Kyron Williams, Lamar, Drake May, Josh Jacobs, Garrett Wilson. If we want to talk just about receivers, Emeka Ibuka, Lad McConkey, Jalen Waddle, Pat, even Terry McLaurin. I'd rather have.
What about Malik Neighbors too? That's
his knees cooked.
Well, that's the thing is, well, you don't know in Travis Achan, Devontae Adams, Luther Burden, like
there's just I have no room in my heart for a guy who is heading into year 4 and has never had more than 5 receiving touchdowns in a year, isn't used that way in the red zone.
I don't think I'm taking him in the 3rd round. Oh, I mean, I'm not taking him in the 3rd round, and quite frankly, I don't think I'm taking him in the 4th.
No.
Like, I think he would have to fall to the point where he would be one of my flexes.
Yes, Zay Flowers is an awesome flex, but he's being drafted as possibly your wide receiver 1.
A higher end. He's the number 16. He's a higher end wide receiver 2. Yeah. And I just can't get with that.
No, I will. Again, I would barf. Big barf.
I think the only way that turns out that way is if Declan Doyle is some kind of offensive wizard like Ben Johnson and Rashad Bateman. Jesus Christ. And if Trey Flowers is the guy... Did I say Trey Flowers?
He did. Former defensive end for the Patriots and Lions. Take your time.
Zay Flowers is the focal point of that passing game. I could see a scenario in which that happens, but I'm good. Especially for the ADP, I'm good.
If you want to take your shot at like unknown ceiling because of an offensive coordinator change, let's take Lad McConkey instead. Let's take Jalen Waddle because he's changing his situation instead. Let's take Emeka Ibuka, who's going to be presumably healthy, with a healthier Baker Mayfield, with a healthier line, all these things. I'm not going to take Zay Flowers when he hasn't shown it that he's worth that pick to me. So I'm pretty much all set on him. Okay, the Cincinnati Bengals. Another team,
Another team that did, drum roll, please. You have a drum roll thing, don't you?
Oh, wait, fuck. No, I don't have a drum roll. I just have this.
Nothing!
Those are drums.
They did nothing. Zach Taylor is back. Their offensive coordinator, who's Dan Pitcher? Oh, no, he left.
Hang on. I mean, the Bengals OC this year. No, I think it's.
Oh, I think
it's
it
the
is
same.
still Dan
Not that
Pitcher,
it-
even
not that
though
it
again
matters.
he's not calling. Let me just make sure. Yeah, Dan Pitcher is still there.
They fired him and hired Dan Ketcher.
Okay. Is still there.
That's worth it.
And like I said, every player we have listed on this team right now was here last year.
Mm-hmm.
And you
I'm
might
not fucking leaving.
You might sit there with the Ravens or another team where it's like, oh my God, they were stagnant. And this, it's like, okay. Because they weren't stagnant, because they're getting a healthy Joe Burrow back.
Mm-hmm.
And that is one of the bigger game changers in the entire offseason.
Yeah.
And Burrow, a healthy Burrow, even look at when we have Burrow up when he came back. 19, 25, 7, not good. 29, 20, and the 22 in week 18. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Coming off the kind of injury he had. But this guy is like fucking cursed, man, in terms of these fluky little injuries that happen to him that take him out for several. Wasn't it turf toe last year?
Yeah, it was.
Like he's got turf toe. It's like he'll break his non-throwing hand.
Mhm.
Like there's always something bizarre that'll happen to him. And then obviously but if we look at it and say everyone's healthy, this offense is fucking lethal for
Mhm.
fantasy football still. You have the best wide receiver tandem in the league. I'll say it still.
I agree.
The Cowboys got a great one. The Rams got a great one, but we saw last year, T. Higgins was fantastic last year with and without Jamar Chase. But it just, does Burrow's injury history scare you away from this team in general?
No, it doesn't, because I think it's hard when you've gotten so much evidence of it over the years, right? You've got a guy who's been hurt multiple times, and you start to want to find the reasoning for that and the cause and effect behind that. And a lot of people have resigned themselves to just, the Bengals O-line is going to continue to allow this to happen. Burrow doesn't do a good enough job protecting himself. And to me, it always comes down to, because this is my favorite example, even though it's a wide receiver, but Keenan Allen, I will never forget, early in his career was considered injury prone because he had, among other things, a lacerated kidney. And that was after some more like traditional injuries, but I will never forget, all of his injuries were different. And then suddenly he rips off like a decade straight of pretty healthy football. And to me, Burrow is a lot more similar to that kind of just shit injury luck that he's dealt with year after year than it is this guy's cursed or this guy's doing something wrong to cause this.
And here's the thing. Like, Keenan Allen's great. We're talking about a guy that could potentially win MVP of the league. He's that good.
Right.
He is that good of a quarterback. And a guy who, he runs a little bit, but a guy who isn't necessarily a runner.
Yeah.
To have that kind of potential in this NFL just goes to show just how good Joe Burrow is.
Yeah.
And again, even if something does happen, it is Joe Flacco, who can slang it, is still at age 50 or however old he is, but it still will be a downgrade. But Burrow's injury history is not scaring me from taking Jamar Chase as high as third overall.
Well, no,
in a draft.
I think especially with Joe Flacco in the mix there now as an actual backup. Last year they had to suffer through a couple of games of game or two of Jake Browning, who was oddly really awful because he actually had filled in admirably for Burrow in the past. But they went out and got Flacco. Now Flacco starts this year still under contract as their backup. So if something were to happen to Burrow, assuming there's no major fall off for Flacco, which I feel like by age 40, you've fallen off as much as you're going to.
Even if there is a fall off, he's still going to be the kind of Jameis type guy who is going to be able to sling it and get and when you have two receivers as good as Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, I'm not worried that, because there are so many other guys up top like Puka. Matthew Stafford gets hurt. Is it still Jimmy G?
For Stafford?
Yeah.
No, for Stafford, it's Stetson Bennett and Ty Simpson.
Oh.
Jimmy G's in hell.
Far more concerning.
I don't know where Jimmy G's at.
Far more concerning than...
No, not just Jimmy. Fuck.
Jimmy crack corn and I don't care. I went on a trip with a guy named James. Really nice guy. He hates being called like Jim. I kept calling him Jimbo the whole trip. Nicest guy in the world, and I was just being a dick the whole time.
Yeah, Jimmy G appears to be a free agent still.
Alex met him.
Okay, yeah, no, this is old.
But yeah, so like that concerns me. Like if Matthew Stafford comes out, Puka's stock goes way further down than Jamar Chase's with Joe Flacco out. Am I still probably, gun to my head, taking Puka over Jamar Chase? I think so, because I think Puka is just that much of a freak in the perfect offensive situation for him. But Chase is easily my receiver number 2. And, if you take him at 3rd overall, or if you say, I want a wide receiver, and I'm taking him 1st overall, I say okay, because he's that good. His quarterback has the potential to be that good. And you'd hope here that the stars can align, finally get a healthy season, and we can watch these 2 former college teammates absolutely fucking ball out.
Yeah, I think it's always hard to let go, especially if you were personally burned by having Joe Burrow last year or having another Bengal like Chase Brown was, because of the offense being so bad. He was useless for like the first half of the year and then had a really hot second half of the year because the offense got back to what we thought it could be. So I know it's hard to let that go, but like, again, this is one of those guys and one of those like injuries where I think you just have to tell yourself, this is the NFL. Guys get hurt. It's not necessarily predictive of what's going to happen going forward, even though, it's happened multiple times for Joe Burrow over the years. He's just had bad luck. And like, if you want to be the type of person that believes in, oh, Burrow's just cursed, okay, be my guest. But to me, that is a terrible way to approach fantasy football, because curses and luck and such like that are not real. And you are just going to be missing out on a Bengals offense that, with the dice being re-rolled and starting this year healthy for Burrow now, is set to be arguably the most productive in the entire NFL. So I am not worried about Joe Burrow. I'm not worried about Jamar Chase. And it's funny, you mentioned like Chase versus Puka because of the quarterback situation. It's like, so we're going to be worried about Joe Burrow's injury issues, but we're not worried about Matthew Stafford, who's 40 whatever.
And his back is about as good as mine.
But because he played last season, we're not worried about it.
No, that's fair. That's really fair.
The cause and effect, that should not be what dictates your concern level. Sometimes guys get hurt, sometimes they don't. It doesn't mean one was more at risk than the other. It just means it went one way for one guy and the other for another guy, because that's how it goes. So no, not worried about Burrow. I think he is very justified in his quarterback 4 ranking, 45th overall, because this is a team that, again, we've talked about it a little bit. Defense has gotten a little better. I think the defense is better enough to where they can certainly compete to win this division now, but I don't think it's still good enough to avoid. They're going to be in shootouts. They're going to be chucking the ball. They're not as good as Chase Brown is. There's not going to be any games where Chase Brown is like 30 carries for 180 yards and 3 touchdowns where, oh, Burrow didn't have to throw that week. They're going to have to throw pretty much every week, and Burrow's going to be the engine behind that.
And for the first time, really, we saw T. Higgins just straight kind of ball out at the end of the year. He was really good. Unfortunately, missed a couple weeks due to injury, but 4 of his last 7 games that he played, he was a wide receiver 1, a top 12 wide receiver on those given weeks. 11 touchdowns is great for him as well. He's going at wide receiver 14, maybe a touch rich for my blood. But I think if you're going to take like a wide receiver 2 there, I think about it like, again, he is behind Zay Flowers in the Fantasy Pros consensus rankings. Every day of the week, give me T. Higgins. Tedero and McMillan going after him. Give me T. Higgins. Even though he's a wide receiver 2, again, there is nobody else. I don't even know who their wide receiver 3 is. It like is it still Andre Yoshivas?
It's Andre Yoshivas. Yeah.
And then Mike Gesicki, you mentioned him here.
Gesicko mode.
Never start a Bengals tight end. They don't matter unless someone's hurt.
One of these guys is hurt.
Unless one of these guys gets hurt.
Correct.
But the thing is, when they are both healthy, Joe Burrow will be throwing the ball to 2 people: Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Draft them. Again. Good offenses. Buy stock now, as John Rothstein would say.
Yeah,
I still like T. Higgins here.
T. Higgins is a guy that, like, I think in the past I've definitely overthought a little, or not necessarily overthought, but like got too picky with. Like, T. Higgins at the end of the day is the best, if not second best, wide receiver 2 in the league on an offense that's going to have to throw, on an offense with a quarterback who's amazing. And like that, sometimes fantasy should just be kept that simple. And as long as T. Higgins himself stays healthy, like he's going to be a really productive guy. Now, again, is he a guy that I would want as my wide receiver 1 on my team? It just doesn't feel good when he's not his own team's wide receiver 1. But like point total wise, if you've stocked up on 2 really good backs before you draft T. Higgins as your 1, like that can still work out. I mean, the last few years, so he's missed some time, right? But 3 of the last 4 years, he's finished as at least wide receiver 17. The one time that he didn't was 2023. He was wide receiver 49. He only played in 12 games. I think Burrow was also injured for a large portion of that year. But in seasons where Burrow's been healthy, wide receiver 17, and then and this 2 years ago in 2024 finished as wide receiver 17 despite only playing in 12 games. T. Higgins, that is. And then last year he was wide receiver 12 in 15 games with Joe Flacco taking a big piece of that. Like, he just feels, he's gone for me from being the guy that like, ew, it just feels kind of gross, to in a world of uncertainty, he feels kind of certain, at least as far as the bet that you're making. You feel okay about the bet you're making because the guys like going behind him. Like, look, is being wide receiver 15 on consensus rankings rich when his floor has shown to be 17th? Yeah, a little bit. But guys behind him, Teteroa McMillan. I don't fucking really like Bryce Young. I'm not convinced on that offense as a whole. Garrett Wilson, certainly not convinced on the Jets offense as a whole. Now, do I think like Ibuka, McConkey, Waddle are the ceiling shots? Absolutely. If you want to take a ceiling play versus T. Higgins, who's more of a floor play, sure, then go ahead and do that. But he still definitely feels more certain than all 3 of those guys as well. So depends on your team build, but T. Higgins is a guy I've definitely come around on just because, hey man, I want pieces of that Bengals offense.
And stop me if you've heard this before from me. I fucking love Chase Brown.
Stop.
Oh,
just because I've heard it before.
You have heard it before. That's right. Thank you for following instructions.
You're welcome.
Again, you talk about a situation where every year we're kind of scared. Almost like Kyron Williams.
Brooks is coming.
Well, Kyron Williams is Blake Corum's creeping up on him. The Bengals have done nothing now.
Yeah.
To challenge Chase Brown at all. I believe Samaje Perine still there. He'll catch like a couple passes a game. He'll take some third down snaps.
He's 100.
But Chase Brown is clearly Zach Taylor's guy in this offense. He can run. He can catch the ball. And it's such a good offense where he is getting the goal line carries, where he is potentially getting the third down work. This is a true bell cow running back in one of the best offenses in the league. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Give me Chase Brown.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. He feels like one of the safer bets you can make. Look, this is just me. I'm always going to be a little bit scared when I'm drafting a guy who is just role-based, even though the role is really strong. So that's not to say I wouldn't pick him. It's just scary to me to see him going in the middle of, like, if you look at just the running backs, it's Genty, then Achane, then Chase Brown, then Saquon, then Hampton, then Derrick Henry. And it's like, if you were to build a running back in a lab, all 4 of those other guys are like ideal specimen. And then it's like, here's Chase Brown. What's his strength? He's on the Bengals.
Yeah.
Like, and that's for fantasy. A lot of the time that is all you need. It's just a little scary to me to make that bet compared to some of the other backs around him. But I get it. I totally get it.
I get that the other backs around him might have more natural talent. Like
but they're not
Saquon
on the Bengals,
Barkley,
and that
Aaron
matters.
Hampton, and there's nobody that's going to take anything like. If the Eagles, no one's going to take anything from Saquon this year, but we still saw him be underwhelming for his expectations last year. Omarion Hampton, Keaton Mitchell's there. He's potentially fun. Derrick Henry, old. Kenneth Walker, injury prone. It's like, so while they all have their highs, they also have their red flags. And if Chase Brown's red flag is he just might not be all that good at real life football, I don't care.
Yeah, no,
it's so
like,
much about opportunity.
Williams. It's just like
so
Kyron.
much about opportunity.
Like, because Kyron, like you said, he's actually starting to be crept up on a little by Blake Corum. Finally, it seems like, not that Kyron's going to be a total
Blake
bust.
Corum
but
got drafted with so much pedigree,
and we had multiple years first of being like, well, Kyron's not that good. He's going to lose his job. And this feels like we're in the middle of that. Like, I don't think we're going to hit 3-4 years from now and Chase Brown is going to have put together this amazing NFL career. I just don't. But I think we're in the midst of a stretch that can't be denied. Like, I don't think there's nothing that's going to take this away from him.
Exactly.
I am looking for any semblance of threat on their depth chart. And like, I'm not totally writing off Taj Brooks yet because I mean, what, this is going to be his second year in the league?
I think third.
Is this going to be his third? No, 2025 draft, round 6. But like,
but again, that's a guy who was drafted with no pedigree, and got 16 carries last year.
Yeah, so like, I'm not totally writing him off yet because I liked the prospect, but yeah, he didn't exist last year, and like, that's a
And again,
sign
a
of
sixth
things.
round pick as well.
And Chase Brown was very good last year.
Again, if Chase Brown gets hurt, you're starting Todd Brooks because he's
Where was Chase Brown drafted? Was he undrafted? No, fifth round.
Fifth
Okay,
round.
so similar.
But he was in a
capital.
situation where it was Zach Moss who was there in the backfield with him.
Never forget the Moss Brown debate.
Yeah, you loved Zach Moss, man.
And I was not wrong. And he
was good until he broke his fucking neck.
Until he broke his
And I got
neck.
Chase Brown the week before Zach Moss broke his neck.
And I had Zach Moss. That was God. That was like, I think that was the Kyle Pitts and Javonte Williams year. That was just a bad year. That was not a good year for me.
So draft the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yes, draft the Bengals.
And now for a team that could not be further from that. It's funny because I make Browns in my pants when I think of the Cleveland Browns. Because there are changes here. Kevin Stefanski is gone. They fired him, 2-time coach of the year. But again, similarly to John Harbaugh, maybe it was just time.
Mm-hmm.
You bring in Todd Monken, a 60-year-old first-time head coach, when you could have retained your defensive coordinator, who has been the shining light, the saving grace of this franchise.
He's still unemployed.
I believe he'd taken the year off.
That's crazy for how great Jim Schwartz has been.
That's what I mean. Well, I think at that point in the year,
Maybe he hasn't been that good. Maybe it's just been Myles Garrett.
I think at that point, we'll find out. But again, we'll talk about culture, that kind of thing. Like, I think they could have hung on to that culture. But instead you go get Todd Monken, who again, good offensive coordinator, 60 years old, never been a head coach, sitting fucking duck. I think he's calling plays. And he brings in Travis Switzer as his offensive coordinator, who will probably be more like a sidekick offensively than anything. And to make matters even better, they stink.
They fucking stink.
There are a couple guys here that are going to have some fantasy value.
Are we sure?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty confident.
They're going to be drafted, but
I'm pretty confident in one.
Yeah, I know who. Yeah,
and that one is Quinshon Judkins.
Oh, that's not even the one I was talking about.
Oh,
I was assuming Fandon.
Yeah, I have some confidence in him too. But I will say Quinshon Judkins here, should be healthy, start the year. Dylan Sampson is not somebody that I'm terribly concerned about. We'll see how their offensive line holds up after a complete overhaul. But the way I see it is Todd Monken loves to run the ball. And Quinshon Judkins was very good last year for a portion of the year and then got hurt and was, but I think this is a good situation for him in the sense that he's just going to fit what Todd Monken likes to do, what he did in Baltimore. Obviously, Quinshon Judkins is not Derrick Henry.
Correct.
And never will be. But we are looking at someone with some talent, loves to beat women, allegedly. Mm-hmm. And remember I called that? That is one of the craziest things
that was crazy.
That's ever happened.
You compared him to Joe Mixon.
Well, you compared him to Joe Mixon. I said, well, as long as he doesn't beat women, then he should be great. And then 2 weeks later, he allegedly beat a woman. But I like it in this situation. Again, the QB play is going to be bad. They don't have any real studs in the passing game. I think he's going to be the most important player in this offense. And even while the offense is going to be bad, they were bad last year. They were in the situation last year where they had bad quarterback play, bad targets around him, and Judkins still managed to find some production. So I think that's going to happen. He's going at RB20? Mm-hmm. Sure. Awesome.
You want to talk about the anti-Chase Brown. It's Quinshon Judkins. Really good and talented football player.
He's the Mercedes under the trailer or whatever.
He's in absolute hell.
Yeah.
I don't particularly like Quinshon Judkins. I think depending on your roster build, if you are just looking for an RB2 who you know is going to get a decent chunk of carries, I could see the argument because he's the last guy. Like, there's a huge drop-off from him to the next group of running backs, except for David Montgomery, where you're looking at a really uncertain touch total for everybody that goes after Quinshon Judkins. Because it's like Quinshon's going to be their quote-unquote bell cow back. And then after that, you've got Bucky Irving, DeAndre Swift, Travion Henderson, Montgomery, who I mentioned, Bashal Tutin, Jadarian Price, Jalen Warren, all these guys who you could very easily see being under 15 touches in any given game.
Yeah.
Quinshon Judkins is going to get a lot of work. I just can't buy in because it's going to be such shit work. Like, the Browns are going to be a bottom 3 team in football again, at best. The Browns, by every projection, have the worst offensive line in football. The Browns, by every projection, have the worst quarterback situation in football. And on top of all that, Quinshon Judkins is not going to get all of the touches out of the backfield because Dylan Sampson's going to take a lot of that receiving work. Like, do I think he's going to get the vast majority of the carries? Absolutely, which is why I mentioned him in relation to all those other backs. But how often are you going to be able to run the ball when you're going to be trailing by 2 possessions 5 minutes into every game? Like that, and that's what I see for the Browns, especially a lot, defense doesn't often come into our offensive projections, but getting rid of Myles Garrett is going to change the math for the Browns here. It just is. Unless Jared Verse manages to be a 1-for-1 replacement, which he's fucking not going to be able to do that, even though he's a good player.
Myles Garrett is again,
Hall
speaking
of
of Derrick Henry, different.
Right. And it's a hard bet for me to make. Like, I understand the touch total projection that he's going to have, or at least the carry total projection that he's going to have, and he's aligns with the identity of what the Browns want to do. But what the Browns want to do and what the Browns are going to be physically able to do, to me, are two like very different things.
And but the thing I think too is that where he's being drafted at RB20, that's okay. He's probably your RB2. Like, you're not expecting him to carry the wagon here for the team. That's the way I see it. Again, maybe if he's going at RB 13 or 14, then I have more reservations based on what you're saying. But what you're saying is perfectly valid. I think I'm just kind of okay with some of those pitfalls at where he's going in RB 21.
If you're looking for strictly a workload, if you're going to get the vast majority of the carries in your backfield, like, maybe you break a 50-yarder here and there. Maybe you get the PI in the end zone and you're getting the goal line carry. Like, I get that. He's going to be the guy. It's just a hard bet
I get it.
to make.
No, I totally get it.
Maybe I come around, but for right now, I'm like, I don't know. That, on top of the injury too, but it sounds like he's again, much like Pollard, had a little bit more time than Pollard. He hurt himself about a month earlier timeline wise than Pollard did with his fibula injury. So I get it. It's tough. It's tough. Real quick with the quarterbacks, Shedeur Sanders and Deshaun Watson both outside of the top 30 in consensus quarterback rankings. Whoever the fuck starts for them, no.
God, no. But the question is just like, can either of these guys give anything? Again, you mentioned Harold Fannin. Again, Todd Monken loves tight ends. He fits that mold. And Harold Fannin is a very talented player. He had a good year. They line him up in the backfield. They line him up in the slot. Like, he's a guy who is versatile. Look at all the green on that page.
A lot of green. Fantasy Pros highlighted his good games.
He was one of the more consistent tight ends the whole season that finished up there in the overall rankings. So again, tight end 6, I think at that point, I'm either taking one of those top 4 or so tight ends, or I'm waiting. So I don't personally see Harold Fannin necessarily being on a lot of my teams, just based on my own personal draft strategy. But if I'm taking a pass catcher on this team, it's Fannin, and it's not particularly close. But I guess that's just because I have zero faith in any of these wide receivers, in spite of 2 of them being very talented rookies.
Yeah, I think Fannin, like you said, he falls into that mid-range tight end area where I'm just like not super interested in those guys. I'd rather take one super early or wait.
Exactly.
Because this is just my like mindset shift in this fantasy season where these bad offenses, man, like, somebody's going to emerge. But when your cost is already high and I have to bet on you, like if I'm going to be investing in a bad offense on the premise that I could be wrong and it could be better than I think, I'm not doing that with a mid-round pick. Like I'm doing that with like the Miami Dolphins and Malik Washington. Like, I'm going to draft Malik Washington late because, okay, what if the Dolphins don't totally fucking suck? Well, if that's the case, somebody has to catch the ball for them, and it's probably going to be Malik Washington. That's at least the way things look. Similar with the Browns. Like, the Browns, maybe they won't be total dick and ass. Maybe
yes, they will.
Right. But like, maybe if they're not,
sure,
somebody is going to do something. But to me, that's not worth taking like tight end 6.
Is that something?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like, between Judkins and Fannin, I just don't want to invest high picks in this offense because I think it's going to be so bad. And they change, like, anytime you change anything, right? They change their OC, they change their head coach. Like, so the environment that Fannin thrived in last year is technically gone. Like
True.
he's still at the top of their depth chart. He's still going to be their number one target unless Todd Monken has completely lost his marbles. But you're still messing with what somehow managed to work in what was already a bad situation. It just feels dicey to me, especially at tight end 6. So I think I'm kind of out on Harold Fannin for redraft this year. But that brings me to the receivers, Pat, because like I said, if I'm going to invest in an offense on the premise that I could be wrong, it's going to be with guys who are late picks. And that is why I have come around to my guy coming into the NFL draft, Casey Concepcion.
Yeah.
I really like him at wide receiver 53, 133rd overall. It feels to me like this is a kind of a shitty comparison, but it's just the first thing that comes to mind. But like when I drafted Nico Collins for CJ Stroud's rookie year, 2023, it was, I like Nico Collins and I'm hoping the offense will be better. Offense ended up being really good. Nico Collins was their clear wide receiver 1, so he ended up being good. To me, Casey Concepcion is a talent to where he's going to emerge as their clear wide receiver 1, if not their top target, but their wide receiver 1. And so if the Browns manage to not be a total fucking dumpster fire, like that guy's going to be good for fantasy. And suddenly you've spent a 11th, 12th-ish round pick on a guy who could be in a wide receiver 2 for you if the Browns somehow manage to figure out their quarterback situation. So I just want to say I like the talent of Casey Concepcion. I like the opportunity for Casey Concepcion. And so the environment dragging down anybody's excitement for him, something I'm considering taking advantage of at that point in drafts. People who like Denzel Boston could feel the same way. Sure. I'm a Concepcion guy.
I also think I would take Concepcion in this round. But like you said, it's almost for free at that point. Jerry Jeudy, stop. I actually just saw a video came up on my timeline of a biker picking up 4 water bottles. God damn it,
Terrific.
Twitter.
Terrific.
So yeah, the Cleveland Browns are stinky Browns.
Stinky doo-doo Browns.
And now, the defending division championship,
brother,
your Pittsburgh Steelers. I was just in Pittsburgh a couple weeks ago. Go to Big Jim's in the run, excuse me, if you're ever in Pittsburgh. Great sandwiches. Okay, big changes here. And by big, I mean Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, big boy.
You get rid of Mike Tomlin, who, again, phenomenal head coach, Hall of Famer, needed to go. I've been arguing for the past few years that he's needed to go. And he goes. You bring in the fat white equivalent of Mike Tomlin, a guy who won a Super Bowl many years ago, is not a bad coach. Is not a bad coach by any means.
Sorry, checking something because our stream says it's been live for a minute, and I know that's not true.
We've been live this whole time.
Okay, never mind.
Oh, sound question mark?
Hello? Testing?
Hello?
Testing?
Pat also destroyed a lot of bathrooms. Dude, the Dunkin' Donuts in Pittsburgh.
We can't hear. What has happened? One moment. That's so weird. What? Okay, never mind. That one guy, we got one guy. That one guy's deaf. Sorry, that just lined up with a weird technical difficulty.
I am hearing sound throughout the whole video.
Yeah. Okay. Never mind. That guy was confused. Mike cut out. Okay.
Sound is still here. Okay, so we're all right. Mine's green.
Whatever. Continue. Mike McCarthy,
yes,
Steelers.
I absolutely blew up the Dunkin' Donuts bathroom on, I forget what street in Pittsburgh. This was also where I met a stranger from my Immaculate Grid account, and he had to go sit at the Dunkin' Donuts and buy something with my debit card so I could destroy their bathroom.
Okay.
Shout out, Brody. Okay. Yeah, so Steelers. Brian Angelicio is the offensive coordinator. Mike McCarthy is calling the plays.
Mm-hmm.
That is all you need to know. This team, like we said, out of all the teams, they made the most moves. You bring in Rico Dowdle, who is very good when given the opportunity. And you bring in Michael Pittman from the Colts, who's also proven to be a very solid real life and at times fantasy wide receiver. Star of the early days of the Brampire team last year. What do we think? What do we think? Because I'm very just whelmed by the Steelers.
Yeah.
I just sit here and I'm just like, I don't love any of these players, but I'm not necessarily out on any of these guys.
Yeah, it just feels like the narrowest range of outcomes for any team. Like for as long as Aaron Rodgers plays, you know the team is just going to be what it is. Like, it's just going to be fine. It's not he's good enough that he's not going to totally fall off and send the offense into a dumpster. So yeah, I it's not like you can really project anybody to be like a league winner off the Steelers, but can you project somebody to get a decent amount of points? Yeah, I think so. Rodgers himself is not going to be a guy you're particularly worried about. Maybe streaming caliber, super flex kind of guy, sure, but in terms of most leagues, you're not worried about him. Jalen Warren and Rico Dowdle.
I'm going to say something
backfield.
here.
Yeah.
I'm surprised at these ADPs here. I would take Rico Dowdle over Jalen Warren.
Yeah.
I think he is simply the better running back. He is a more traditional early down back. Another guy like Isaiah Pacheco that just kind of runs angry.
Mm-hmm.
He was phenomenal. But why are you looking up the highest paid kicker in the NFL?
I'm not. That's an autofill. I'm looking at the highest paid.
Well, that means you've
back.
searched that before.
No, that was just an auto suggestion. I have not searched that. I mean, maybe I did. I don't know. I don't remember.
So yeah, what Rico Dowdle is being paid $12.2 million.
$6 million a year. Where is Jalen?
Right below him.
Jalen Warren's. Oh, did our camera just die? Camera died. Man, we're on a hot streak right now.
Can you guys hear us at least?
Hold on, we're gonna change the camera.
Can you guys hear us?
This stream's just
Please
hilarious.
let us know if you can hear
This is the equivalent of the Steelers, is what's happening on this podcast.
Guys,
right now.
please, chat, please let us know if you... Well, actually, I can just unmute.
Just absolute disaster mess. Yeah, okay.
Yep, I can hear the whole time.
Okay. Mute that shit so it doesn't echo like crazy. Sorry, guys. Fixing camera.
Was just making sure I could hear you from... So, whenever we ask you guys, it's just so easy for us to actually check, and I just kind of thought of that now. Has anyone had the new chicken Caesar sandwich from McDonald's? Sounds good.
Do we have a chicken? That does sound kind of.
Yeah, I might be.
I'm interested in that.
I might be partaking because I'm getting a little hungry.
Oh, you little hungies, little pal. And yeah, anybody who's saying there's no sound, just like refresh the stream or something, because
at least that worked for Xander.
Most people are saying there's sound. It does seem like our stream might have like glitched for a second. This is an independent issue of the camera thing. But yeah, we
preview.
We have sound. So if you don't have sound, skill issue, respectfully. One moment.
Okay, but while the camera's not working and Brand fiddles with that, I'll continue to talk about Rico Dowdle and Jalen Warren. I think obviously Warren is going to be a bit more involved on third down, and I do think they're both going to have some fantasy value. But at the end of the day, like if one of these guys is just going to go out there and control the touches, control the carries, I think it's going to be Rico Dowdle. He was with Mike McCarthy in Dallas. He was the guy McCarthy brings in. Jalen Warren is not his guy. And again, nothing totally against Jalen Warren. He had a nice year last year. I liked him a lot last year, and he wound up being good. And he, again, I thought that was going to be another team that might draft a running back, and they didn't. So it's clearly Dowdle and...
Remember Caleb Johnson?
Dude.
Rip.
Dude, that was the most predictable... Nothing. Like Mike Tomlin did not say a nice thing about him.
No, but
the
it's like
entire offseason.
That like botched kick return he had just seems like it zapped him. Like
it zapped any chance he had, and I don't think he had much of a chance. So, what's your take here on this backfield?
Yeah, I think I'm with you on preferring Dowdle. It's just I don't know, because I think Jalen Warren, the things he does well.
What the fuck? Sorry.
We're all over the place. The things he does well.
I thought I muted my computer.
Really,
I just muted YouTube.
Really fit with what Rodgers likes to do. He's a trustworthy guy. He's going to be good in pass protection. He's going to run his routes well. And not that Rico Dowdle can't do those things, but I don't know. We know that this offense is going to be so largely dictated by what Rodgers likes and wants to do. And now that they have like Jalen Warren's effectively going to be in that Kenneth Gainwell role. Like they were kind of oddly flipped last year.
That's the thing. Well, it's just that Gainwell was better at his role, and Warren is not 2 feet tall like Kenneth Gainwell, and is a bit more suited to be that early down back. But now you're right. I think Warren kind of, because it was the same thing. Who was it there with Warren a couple of years ago? Warren and not James Conner, or was it? No. Who was the guy that came in right after James Conner with Jalen Warren? There were two guys there, and Jalen Warren was kind of the compliment guy. Wow, chat, help me out here. I am like
That's our research department's on it. Steelers stats 2023.
It's right 24.
Uh,
Najee Harris.
oh yeah,
Good God.
Eye boy.
Thank you, Juice Man.
Eye boy.
Najee Harris. That was kind of the case where Najee was the lead back and Warren was more of the complement. And now Warren will kind of go back to that role.
Yeah.
I just think Dowdle is more apt for fantasy production here. Yes, Warren's going to play a good deal. I'm drafting Jalen Warren, like, RB27. Yeah, cool. I'm in on Jalen Warren as well. I just prefer Dowdle. But again, we're kind of splitting hairs here. And I think both of these guys are going to be productive.
Dowdle just had such high-end production last year for multiple games.
And then they were just like,
and those are
Chuba Hubbard.
And those are the kind of things that like you just can't get out of any back. And these are the kind of things you've never seen out of Jalen Warren. Like 23 for 206 and a touchdown, 30 for 183, 25 for 130 and 2 touchdowns. Like, to me, if you're going to get massive production out of any Steelers running back, it's going to be Rico Dowdle versus Jalen Warren, who's like, I think going to be a flex guy at best. Now, credit to Jalen Warren pulling up his game logs. He did have 16 for 127, granted against the Bengals, and 14 for 143 and 2 against the Lions. But I just think Dowdle's the bet I'm going to make in this backfield. And at RB 31, I don't hate it because I think
I'd rather have him over Chuba. I'd rather have him over Ramondre Stevenson. Probably, obviously, I just said Warren. You get to the Pollards, the Prices, the Tutons. I'm probably not. They don't have that much competition. And now, what do we think of this passing game? Because Aaron Rodgers can obviously still maintain an offense, and you bring in Michael Pittman, who is the best wide receiver too. I guess since George Pickens, but that was when George Pickens wasn't really a thing yet. So this is like the best 1-2 punch here that they're going to have. And this is interesting because DK was kind of ass last year. He had some good weeks, but he also had weeks where, like, look at this guy was snaps count. Fuck this thing. Snap count was all green. A lot of red. 5.6, 3.5, 4.9. This guy had 3 wide receiver one finishes, all season. I think bringing in Michael Pittman is only going to make this worse for him, to be honest with you. But, big butt, and speaking of big butts, Mike McCarthy.
Darnell Washington.
We saw Mike McCarthy have good fantasy offenses in Dallas. Is the personnel as good? No. There's no Dak Prescott. There's no CeeDee Lamb. There's no, at one point, Ezekiel Elliott.
Mm.
But Mike McCarthy can have productive fantasy offenses. So I do expect this passing game to improve on whatever the fuck has been happening under Mike Tomlin there the last few years. Again, I think I'm going to go against the grain here, and I think I'd rather have Michael Pittman.
I think Michael Pittman's just a better wide receiver than DK.
I agree.
Metcalf.
DK is a bit older, no? He's got to be.
They're probably about the same age.
Unks. DK.
I think DK's probably like 28.
I thought he was like 50. Nice pull. He is exactly 28.
Pittman, I'm going to guess, is 29.
Oh, you're going to guess he's older. See, as we figured out from our trivia, 28.
28, okay.
Why is this the first thing that pops on his Instagram? Cowboy up. And it's a bunch of guys on the Steelers, and fucking there's Aaron Rodgers. This might be AI.
Is DK in that picture?
DK, Ben Skoranek. In some small white guy.
Where are we drafting Ben? No.
But
I like
that was fucking funny.
I think Michael Pittman, again, talk about guys who just fit what Rodgers is able to do at this point in his career better. I think Pittman is a more versatile receiver. I think Pittman's just a better receiver. I think people forgot how good Michael Pittman is. Again, we're talking about it like one play doesn't mean anything, but he had like arguably the best catch of the season last year. Like this is a really, really good football player. And I think he's coming in to potentially be their top target. And you're getting the top target of a team that's going to be trying to compete, seriously compete, at least in their eyes. And you're getting that at 94th overall, wide receiver 40. I absolutely think Michael Pittman is going to finish inside the top, like 30 of wide receivers at the very least and be kind of a useful piece for you. I just think DK Metcalf's had the opportunity to like be the guy for the Steelers and didn't show the capability to really do it. So I think that role is open, and I think Michael Pittman's stepping into it.
And honestly, at this point, Aaron Rodgers might just be a more reliable passer than even someone like Daniel Jones, who looked really good last year. Like Rodgers is at least going to be solid. And to last touch on this, former Pat's pal, Pat Fryermuth, the 201st player overall. I made an exception for him. Tight end 26, I don't care. As much as I like him as a player, I don't care. I'm not really that interested in any Steelers tight ends. Obviously, Darnell Washington is more so just on here because he's fucking enormous and fun to talk about.
Well, he was good. Like, he had games where he had meaningful targets last year. Like, he was 5'5", 6'5". Like, there were some games where he wasn't anything because he is effectively just an extra tackle.
But still, what were those overall finishes?
No, yeah, he's
like tight end 19.
No, he's not a standalone guy for fantasy football. It's more about like Pat Fryermuth is a guy who I do like, and I do think now that they are free of the Arthur Smith, I will use whoever the fuck I want regardless of talent shackles.
It's gone.
That Fryermuth could
It's going to be whoever puts the lotion in the basket,
right.
basically.
I think Fryermuth could take a step back towards some relevance. You know, we saw him blow up briefly last year in one game, 5 catches, 111, 2 touchdowns on that unction against Joe Flacco and the Bengals in week 7, 25.6 points. But like, this is a guy who's been in the past tight end 14, tight end 8, tight end 10. I think there's a path for him to be relevant again. Now, Darnell Washington's existence muddies that a little, just because if he siphons off any red zone like looks from Pat Fryermuth, who it's so valuable to a guy like him if he's going to be a fringe relevant tight end, that could be annoying.
Yeah,
but
I'm
guy. No, he's not a guy I'm targeting in drafts aggressively. I would rather target Gunnar Helm. I'd rather target AJ Barner. I'd rather even maybe target Terrence Ferguson on the chance that
even
he gets
maybe
more
Kenyon
involved.
Sadiq.
I'm not a Sadiq guy.
I'm not either, but I'm not a Pat Fryermuth guy either.
I see what you mean, but yeah, I think as far as that goes, Pat, I'm keeping my eye on Fryermuth, but no, I'm not expecting a lot. All right, real quick, we'll do this late round quarterbacks draft because we've got a little bit of time. We got about 5-6 minutes. Because, we did like 4 or 5 minutes of intro, so we've got some time. And it also doesn't matter if we go over because we don't have any bosses and we're not on the syndicated television show, so we can go over a little if we want.
But I gotta go pee-pee.
Well, too fucking bad. Okay, so we've talked plenty about late round quarterbacks and
the quarterback ADP.
Yeah, we've talked plenty about late round quarterbacks and how we feel that is the way to go this year. What we haven't done, I don't think, a perfect job of, or at least we want to be more specific on it, is which of these guys we prefer against the others, because there is just a big cluster of guys who are late round quarterbacks. So what I want to do, we'll go back and forth. I say let's do 3 picks each of quarterbacks whose current ADP is outside of the top 10. And we're looking at, on Fantasy Pros, they let you look at ADP for quarterbacks. This is an average of like ESPN, Yahoo, Sleeper. Their top 10 quarterbacks are Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Drake May, Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, Jackson Dart, Caleb Williams, Justin Herbert, and Dak Prescott. So outside of those guys, who do we like the best to possibly be this year's top 5 sort of quarterback that you can get this late?
And again, value does matter.
Yes.
Like in this as well, like we are going to take into account. So Bran, why don't you skadoosh on out there and make your first pick?
So my first pick, if you were looking at this ADP list, it is the chalk first pick, but it's because it's a guy that I'm quite frankly confused as to the lack of faith in him for fantasy football, and it is Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, absolutely.
I understand the hesitation because we've had years upon years upon years of him not doing the fucking thing. He did the fucking thing last year, Pat. At the second half of last year, Trevor Lawrence was a beast, and the Jags are an offense that I want to invest in, but we've talked so much over this offseason of we don't fucking know which receivers to invest in. Well, how about we invest in the guy throwing?
I was going to say that's fantastic for Trevor Lawrence.
Exactly.
That he has
his
so
job
many
easier.
Exactly. He's got it might be hell for fantasy for us, but it makes him a crazy
Trevor doesn't have to worry
here
about who he's going to throw to. He can just throw to whoever. So Trevor Lawrence from week 12 on, we're talking about 7 games from week 12 on. Trevor Lawrence finished worse. Trevor Lawrence finished worse than QB7 one time, and he was QB13 with 19.4 points.
And you even look before that, QB11, QB12, QB4. Like, he was basically a QB1 most of the season. Obviously, he had the spike weeks, but still, He was pretty consistent.
And of course, it does bear mentioning that last year for the quarterback position, we were without a lot of the elites. So like, Burrow, Daniels, Lamar, if they're going to stay healthy, if they stayed healthy last year, maybe Lawrence doesn't finish as QB3 like he did. Maybe he finishes as QB6. Okay, cool. He was still being drafted as like QB12, whatever the fuck. He's being drafted there again. He's QB11 in ADP right now. I want to invest in the guy in the Liam Cohen offense who just... it's fresh on my mind because I'm watching the quarterback show on Netflix too, but it's like Liam Cohen was also on the staff when Baker Mayfield had that resurgence with the Rams in that game. And then he was on the Bucs staff with Baker Mayfield for his full season resurgence. Like Liam Cohen, you want to talk about quarterback whisperers, and you have proof of concept
Lawrence
with it.
Wasn't necessarily as low as Mayfield was, but he was just sort of mid. He was just sort of there. Like he was kind of a get the job done kind of guy. Now he's turned into a legitimate above average NFL quarterback.
And I think maybe most importantly, maybe not most importantly, because I think the Liam Cohen thing is definitely the biggest thing and all the weapons that the Jags have. But Pat, the Jags schedule to open the year, we've got like a couple games we're worried about, but not too many. So we start against the Browns, who again, no more Myles Garrett.
Know. Yeah.
At the Broncos is tough, but last year, week 16 at the Broncos, Trevor Lawrence, 31.2 fantasy points. Then he's got the Patriots, the Bengals, the Eagles, the Texans. Okay. Down the stretch, Colts, Ravens, Titans, Giants, Titans, Bears, Steelers. Another game against the Texans. Obviously, they're in their division. We are not going to be looking forward to the Texans game. But it is a favorable quarterback schedule for Trevor Lawrence. I guess people just don't fully believe what he did in the second half of last year, and I do. Because if they believed it, he would be going closer to quarterback 6 or 7.
So I was going to pick him if you didn't.
So Trevor Lawrence, I think, to me, is the ideal late-round quarterback this year.
I'm very sorry to make this pick because you did chalk, and I'm going to be chalk too.
That's fine.
Putting the mic away from my mouth. Patrick Mahomes! Obviously, coming off the injury, there is some concerns. Obviously I owned him 2 years ago and he sucked balls. But last year he was looking good. He was running the ball, obviously then gets the injury. Seems like he should be all good to go week 1. But the big thing here I'm looking at is the return of Eric Bieniemy instead of Matt Nagy, who Bieniemy was there for a majority of Mahomes' best seasons. So, excuse me. So I believe that you can bring the best out of him, and I understand the injury. This is almost similar to like George Kittle. I think this might course correct itself a little bit in the next month or so as we approach. God, it's almost only like a month and a week away from draft season. Is crazy.
We're close. We are close. We've got like 4 shows until we're drafting.
Shit. God.
I guess 5.
And I think Mahomes may course correct a bit, but we're looking at one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time here, who in theory still should be in his prime. So, give me Mahomes.
Yeah, I think, I get it. I think I'm a little bit more out on Mahomes than I thought I would be. And it's just because I think they are going to be more run heavy. I'm very in on Kenneth Walker.
Of course, as am I.
And like Mahomes had this blazing start to the year last year, but a lot of that was because he had to run because they had nothing else working. And
he was also running for his life a lot of those times too.
So like the rushing production really helped him be what he was for fantasy purposes last year. I don't think that's necessarily going to be there. I think we might...
Yeah, coming off an injury.
I think we might go back to... I mean, I guess he had the same finish somehow 2 years in a row. But he missed more games last year than he did the year before. I think we are probably looking at more of a back-end QB1 finish. But I don't blame you if you want to take the shot on the name.
That's the thing. The shot on the name, the upside's still there. We can still be looking at a guy that could be... I think out of all of these guys... I think he's got the best shot to be a top 5 quarterback. I think he's also has a shot, like... I don't know, maybe if his floor is there just because of, the injury and stuff, but I still don't see a reason why he can't be, as good as he once was.
To me, my concern is it's been several years since we've seen it, and hold on, I'm trying to pull up the stats here.
Motherfucker!
Where are we looking at? I'm looking at the last time that Patrick Mahomes was, he was the QB1 in 2022. And that was, so he's shown that he's shown that he can do it without Tyreek Hill. My concern is that can he do it without Tyreek Hill and with a washed Travis Kelce? Because we are dealing with a washed Travis Kelce now. Maybe Xavier Worthy takes that step forward. Rashee Rice we know is good. I don't know if he's like actually worthy of being a Patrick Mahomes wide receiver 1 level good. I know he's fantasy good because they funnel targets to him, but yeah, I don't know. I like Mahomes. There's just other guys I like a little bit more, but I understand the pick for sure. I'm going to go with Brock Purdy.
Fuck.
Another guy who
Dude.
ended the year like
He ended the
absolute
year
crazy.
Like even better than Lawrence somehow.
Yeah.
QB1.
So I mean,
QB 4-4-1 before he didn't play a whole lot in
well,
week 18.
He played all the snaps in week 18, but it was the Seahawks, and that just it fucking happens. Yeah, I mean, look, playing against the Seahawks, maybe you just bench him for those games, but Brock Purdy, engine behind the Shanahan offense. Like, to me, that's what you're looking for when you're picking a quarterback late. You're either looking for a guy who has really elite rushing upside, or you're looking for a guy who is the center of just the most bankable offense
and Brock
in
can
the NFL.
run a bit,
and
too.
he can. Yeah,
He's
he
not
can.
devoid of rushing upside.
He can. Last year, I mean, he didn't do it too much early in the year, but down the stretch, you started to see, 7 carries for 44 yards, 6 carries for 28 yards.
Just against Chicago.
Yeah, just a little bit of that stuff thrown in. Now, Brock Purdy starts the year at home against the Rams. We don't love the Rams. We don't love that as a matchup for a fantasy quarterback, but then he's got the Dolphins and the Cardinals right after that. Then he's got the Broncos and the Seahawks. So, you could be looking at some schedule-based stuff here, but you're drafting a guy at this part of the draft. Draft 2 quarterbacks anyway. Like, if you're drafting late round quarterbacks, draft 2 quarterbacks, play the matchups, because Purdy in good matchups has like legitimate 40-point fantasy upside. Am I going to feel great about starting him in matchups on the road at the Seahawks or even at home against the Broncos or the Rams? Not necessarily, but very few quarterbacks have the ceiling that he does in certain matchups.
And
like
again,
that. And
when you're drafting guys down this low, you're probably taking another guy.
Mm-hmm.
So you should have a viable pick there. All right, so for mine here, I'm going to go deep.
Okay.
Deep toot. Give me Malik Willis. Oh, fuck. Give me Malik Willis here.
Okay.
Again, I think the big concern is that he is on the Dolphins.
Yep.
But you look at this opportunity of a guy on a bad team, garbage time aplenty, and then he runs and can chuck it. That is the perfect combination in certain instances.
Yeah.
I think of all of these guys going as a late QB1. Like, you look at the guys behind him, Baker Mayfield, Tyler Shuck, Sam Darnold, Fernando Mendoza. None of those guys have nearly the upside of Malik Willis. I think the only concern there is, again, he is going to have some ugly fucking games. Because that Dolphins team is going to be really bad. In some of the games, it's just going to show through. But again, you bring him in. His head coach was with him in Green Bay. His GM was with him in Green Bay. So, you send yourself posts on Twitter,
I do.
You maniac.
So I keep track of
Just
things.
bookmark it.
I don't like bookmarks.
You don't want to see my bookmark. It's women and 9/11 jokes.
Terrific. You want to hear a crazy take that I have? Malik Willis, for fantasy purposes, how much different is he really than Jaden Daniels? He's gonna run. He has like one real weapon, and that's about it.
I'm like, who?
Yeah. And that's about it. Like, Jaden Daniels is a much better quarterback than Malik Willis. Don't clip me and take me out of context. But for fantasy, to me,
clip his balls.
And look, if we're sitting here in a couple weeks and they've signed Stephon Diggs, much different conversation. But as of right now, we're sitting here and the Commanders wide receiver 2 is fucking Luke McCaffrey or Antonio Williams, a rookie we know nothing about. We know both these guys are going to run quite a bit and be on probably kind of bad teams. Like the Commanders, I'm sorry.
The Commanders should be better than the Dolphins, but yeah.
Oh, for sure. But like they didn't do enough in free agency for me to be like, yeah, the Commanders are a playoff team.
Yeah,
like,
Dan Quinn is one of those coaches that I think is going to be in a whittle twubble.
Yeah, this is like the Dolphins are going to win 2 games, but the Commanders might win like 6. And so like what... is that enough of a difference for Jaden Daniels, who's QB5 versus Malik Willis, who's QB19? I don't know if it really is. Maybe we stop the draft there. I mean, I think those are the top 4 late round guys.
But
anyway.
I like Tyler Shuck.
Don't want to
We've
go
talked
over too
about
much.
Tyler Shuck before. We like Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
Jordan Love's got some upside.
But these, as far as outside the top 10, these are our top 4 guys in a lot of your 10-team leagues. That is the most that quarterbacks will be drafted.
Yeah.
We've pretty much covered the bases there. But yeah, those are our guys if you're waiting late. Patrick Mahomes, Malik Willis, Trevor Lawrence, Brock Purdy. late round quarterback, there's a lot of viable options this year. So
Yeah,
I
again,
don't really
there's
see a
several
need
more
to pay a
guys we could
premium.
talk about here. So
Absolutely.
and even a guy like Dak Prescott, whose ADP is 108 currently, that's
Right.
still a great value.
Yeah. So that'll do it for this episode of Brand Coverage, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Let me find my wonderful outro music. For Pat Gustafson, I'm Brandon Carney, and we'll see you guys next time with our next divisional preview as the season approaches.
Mitch McConnell is dead. Goodbye.
All right, and let's answer some viewer questions before we
Like,
jump off
seriously,
the
I
bag.
was in the hospital for a week. They do not change you. They don't put you into a nice picnic table ass shirt. You are
saw
dick
that.
and balls out.
I saw that
You
picture,
are
yeah.
dick and balls out the entire time. And if he's so sick that he can't leave the hospital, well, bro is hooked up to something. Bro is fucking dead.
Let's see.
Sorry. I'm not sorry.
An hour ago, MT Whiting with 199 said, "First time playing fantasy, need me some name inspo."
Team name?
Yeah, it sounds like it. I mean,
I saw Alex put ammonrotic asphyxiation. That one's pretty funny.
I like naming my teams after like the players that I draft, but if you're looking for just anything, hold on. I know I have some names.
For one of my fantasy leagues, my team name is however many years I've been in therapy,
Yeah.
which will actually be going on year 19 this year. See, I like to make stupid names based on players. Like my team name to end the year was Saquon my Woody to like Kareem because I had Saquon, Woody Marks, and Kareem Hunt. And it was something stupid before, but I traded somebody that ruined that.
My team last year was they hit the second Bauer.
Yeah, so I was
For Brock Bowers. So I mean that's always an option. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. Name it after someone you draft. I don't know. That's the best option because if you name it after someone else's player, that's kind of like
Tet's favorite word.
you're kind of sitting in the cuck chair.
Well, yeah, or if they're just like any general new ones.
Yeah. Jake Chekalinsky 5929 with $10. Thank you, man. Said
Thank
you
you.
are the experts. Was there any draft?
No, we're not.
Was there any draft pick that fell to the second or third round that you were shocked to see go that far? Your best guess for second or third rounder who could win? O'Roy or D-Roy?
O'Roy or D-Roy. I mean, I don't think necessarily any of these guys are going to win, but I guess it's just a matter of like who might surprise us in the
Let's
third
see.
or so round.
So second round offensively, we've got DeJon Stribling, Denzel Boston, Jeremy
I'll tell you
Bernard.
right up, I think Caden McDonald from the Texans has a chance with the opportunity he's going to have and a really good defense to just be a cog in the middle of that line.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. I mean,
Carson Beck.
Honestly, I fucking hate Carson Beck, but depending how many games he starts, we
Yeah.
know how much quarterbacks just get juiced with these awards.
Yeah.
So like, I don't think he's the worst like bet if you want to like throw $1 on it. Antonio Williams right now projected to have a lot of opportunity with a really good quarterback, like we mentioned with Jaden Daniels.
I'll go a little deeper. I'll say Chris Bell. Injury again. It depends how healthy he is.
Yeah,
but
I don't think he's going to play a
That's
lot
the
this
thing.
year.
But in terms of the talent that could happen, I think he's probably one of the higher ups. Maybe Trey Zune on the Raiders could win Offensive Rookie of the Year as a guard.
Totally. Yeah, that's super likely. Yeah, I'd say. Let me see. I'll narrow mine down to one guy just to play the game. I could see Malachi Fields making some noise because the Giants depth chart, if Malik Neighbors is dead, is
especially
pretty
if Malik is
decrepit.
dead. Sure.
So I'll say him. And then I mean defensive rookie of the year. Shit. Let's see. Who's gonna play a lot? Is really
That's why I went Caden McDonald in the second round because that was just he shouldn't have been there.
Yeah,
he shouldn't have been there.
How about D'Angelo Ponds?
How about Nate Borkature?
Maybe somebody actually gets some interceptions for the Jets there. For once.
Maybe.
Okay. Next we've got random guy with $4.99 said, "Hey guys, can you pause the show real quick? I got to go back to work. I'll be done at 12:30. Thanks." No.
Sorry.
I did see that when he donated it.
I didn't see it actually. That's funny.
But regardless, Alex with $2 said, "Fuck, Mary, kill Peyton Barber, Ruben Randall, C.J. Anderson."
C.J. Anderson thick with it.
C.J. Anderson's also just the best player among
so I'm
these three
fuck
guys.
C.J. Anderson.
I'm gonna marry C.J. Anderson. He's the best player. I'm gonna fuck Peyton Barber because that's the closest thing to a girl's name.
I'll marry Peyton Barber because then my last name would be Barber, which is kind of cool. So sorry, Ruben Randall. by,
we're both killing Ruben Randall. Mediocre, alliteration, bad player.
Oh, I got a good answer for this one here.
Fruit by the Foot with 199 said, I have an important question. Walmart or Target?
Walmart if you need to buy something. Target if you're scoping out some moms.
All right.
Because the baddies go to Target. But, well, I go to Walmart one because it's closer to my house, and it is a bit cheaper. And I like hanging out with all the other retired and unemployed people on a Tuesday.
Great. Ty Daniel with 499.
What's your answer? There's neither in like a 3-hour vicinity from your house.
Walmart is where just rednecks go. You go to
Wait a
Walmart, it's like the night of the living dead half the time. Target's got...
That's why it's great. Well, that's what I mean. Target, they got the lookers, you know?
Yeah, Target's a little bit more, I don't know, clean. Ty Daniel with 499 said, no question, just money for Pat's back. Okay.
Thank you, Ty.
I guess I got to Venmo you the 499 from this donation. Thank you. Okay. Any questions from the general chat? No donations needed. We'll answer a few before we go. Feel free to fire them away here.
Goff my lawn is kind of funny if you put an apostrophe in there. That's not a bad team name.
Goff
from
Goff
my lawn.
My lawn.
That's from Age Cliff. I don't hate that.
That's clever. I actually like that. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to hit us up. We don't require. Why do I keep making the camera like so much? Oh, wait,
Start bench cut fullback edition. Leonard Fournette, Mike McCarthy, 400-pound Bashal Tootin. Well, I'm starting 400-pound Bashal Tootin. And I'll marry Leonard Fournette, and Mike McCarthy can just absolutely get fucked.
I don't know how I keep like moving our like graphics.
Here's a nice question that's very hard to answer that I think I'm not going to be able to answer. Who do you like better at number 1 overall? Brand, you got the number 1 overall pick. Who are you taking?
Gibbs.
Me too.
Gibbs.
But
easy.
If you take Bijan, I don't disagree with you. Like, it's one of those where I think one of these cases where you can't go wrong.
No, I don't think. To me, it's just like they're both in the same tier because they're just both so good. They're the only running backs in their backfield that are actually going to matter, and all that they're going to run through them. But for me, the Lions, like, you take a step back. Lions or Falcons? Like, fucking Lions. Or what are we talking
Lions
about?
And the fact that we have seen so much production go to a second running back, and David Montgomery was so much better than Isaiah Pacheco is, that you just think Gibbs is just going to flourish even further. So if I had the number 1 pick in a draft, I am taking Gibbs. But again, if you want to take Bijan, I think he's going to have a great year.
Yeah, of course he is. Jacob with 199 said, thoughts on the quarterback show on Netflix?
Never seen it.
It's always, so I've watched every season. It's always a good insight. I will say this season's a little bit more boring than the other ones were. So they're following Baker Mayfield, Joe Flacco, Cam Ward, and Jaden Daniels. Baker's a character. Like, he's been entertaining.
Does he do commercials?
Yeah.
On the show?
No. Cam Ward's fun because he's so young and like unfiltered, but like, I don't know, the Joe Flacco stuff, like, it's that the way his story played out last season was cool and like crazy that he was good and all that. But like, I don't know, the behind the scenes of it just isn't that fascinating. Like, I thought the whole thing behind him getting traded would be just a little bit more compelling, and it's kind of just not. And then Jaden Daniels, you know, he had the injury ravaged season last year. And so seeing the behind the scenes of that, you'd think is interesting. But like, Jaden is just Jaden. They even acknowledge in the show that he's not a very big personality. So it's like, why are we doing a documentary on a guy who's not?
Literally, that's the worst
engaging
kind of guy you want for a documentary.
He's so quiet. Like, you know, and he gives good insight. It's not like he's giving one-word answers and all that. But, like, I don't know. I'm thinking back to, like, these other seasons where you had receiver, where it was Justin Jefferson, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle. Like, that was personality to the moon. I think last year it was Burrow, Kirk Cousins.
Kirk seems fun just because of how
he's such
Cole's dad he is.
Yeah, and it was, you know, he's just a really engaging personality. I don't know. It's fine. It's cool. It's nice to get warmed up for the season, but it's definitely a little bit less compelling this year.
Alex got me good with the where is it? I lost it. Oh, it's like, why do we park on the driveway and drive on the parkway? Then why am I sober on the highways?
I'm not.
I'm not either. That's the thing. God damn it. Does Fernando Mendoza start by week 6? I hope so, but they really seem adamant about him just not fucking playing unless something happens to Kirk Cousins.
It just depends how bad Kirk is. If they get some bare minimum usage out of Kirk, then they'll be fine. But if he's
gets hit in the neck or something, then
that's enough. That's enough. That's enough. That's enough.
Division preview.
Yeah,
but no. I hope so. But I do think that whether I agree with the decision or think it's the right one, I really think that's kind of what they're going with right now.
Miami Dolphins wide receiver 2, Mitch McConnell. No. Juice Man said Wandale or Carnell Tate. I like Wandale personally. No.
I like Wandale based on the value better. I do, actually.
You're crazy.
I think just the value.
You are crazy. Wandale Robinson, unless everyone else around him is hurt, has never been useful.
He
Ever.
don't catch the ball.
He's never, unless you're in a 3 PPR league, he is not useful because he's getting you 100 catches for 200 yards.
Good news, everybody. I'm going to have the parasite in Bran's toilet as soon as we finish this.
Terrific. No, Carnell Tate. And Carnell Tate's actually becoming one of my favorite values for fantasy this year because guy was drafted 4th overall and the offense should be better.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
I like him a lot. So yeah, no, fuck Wandale. Wandale's a good safety valve forward. Yeah, safety
When
valve.
in the next few years of the Raiders draft a new quarterback, ban that guy. Wait, I'm the mod. Wait a minute. Ban that guy.
Jeremy Bernard or Josh Palmer? No. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of Brand Coverage. We'll be back next week.